Okay. Right. Nice, nice, nice. Mm, nice, nice, nice. All right, all right. Got here. What we got here? Okay. There it is right there. How y'all like this video image? I'm really testing the, I'm really trying to check the image quality. How's the image quality? What y'all think? I did some professional. I took me a little class and everything. Got my watermelon juice and my pumpkin seeds. I'm ready to talk about some spiritual economics because I think my listeners and people in this space are very, very much in need of it. How's the audio quality? Is that okay as well? It's giving professional podcast. Good job. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Been working on this thing, man. I've been working on this thing, trying to bring y'all some good content. It's not flickering on the computer though. Okay, good. Audio is great. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm liking this. This is a new camera I got. This is a Sony FX30. I usually use Sony A7 IVs, which are cold-blooded cameras too, but these are cinematic cameras, and I just tried it, and I'm like, okay, this thing is nice. I'm looking at it. I'm going to be doing this. Is what I'm going to be shooting a lot of my commercials and things with. It's a movie camera. Shoot movies with it. So I'm very impressed with with the quality of it. He said the camera you're using, what do you say, is a good. The camera you're using is now in a bad. Oh, yeah, this camera's nice right here. It's not the camera; it's the lighting and the settings. I've been having nice cameras for a minute now. I didn't know how to put the settings on it, and that's what when I got with Mr. Brewer, it was forced me to go and actually learn what the cameras will do with the use the proper settings on it. And so, if you are interested in this, know this first and foremost: lighting is important. Um, Buy the big soft lights. They're the best lights. I've experimented with a lot of lights, and the soft lights are the best. And get you professional cameras and professional mics if you can afford to do it. Don't skimp on it at all. But when it comes to the cameras, it's the lighting and it is the settings that you elect on the cameras. There's some guys on YouTube. They're professionals. You can just watch their YouTube. I just watched a guy's YouTube channel and he just Think Media guy over there on Think Media. Let me give him a shout out. He's nice with it. I watched his video how to do the settings on this thing, and man, let me tell you, man, he got a lifelong subscriber. So today, what I wanted to talk about a little bit, I wanted to talk about It's Sunday, so I'm going to talk about some spiritual things today because, I was watching a video yesterday of an individual. He's in a situation like I was in. They're holding him in jail, and he came into the court. He's trying to use this defense to get himself out of jail, and they put it on YouTube. And it really, really struck me as I'm like, wow, I can really sympathize with that guy, what he was saying. And, I'm going to do a review of the video. I'm definitely going to do a review of the video, but it made me think about what is required when you're in a situation like that. When you're in a situation where they've arrested you and they're holding you in jail, in his particular situation, they'd been holding him for 120 days. They hadn't formally charged him with anything. He haven't been given an indictment. And these are the kind of things that will make people think that the criminal justice system is nothing but an injustice. Like how are you going to hold? They did that to me. They held me a long time like that too. And so I understood what he meant. It will make you angry, and it will make you question, justice and the judicial system. So I don't want people to think that I don't understand that injustices don't occur. However, I do believe that you can prevent yourself from ever experiencing anything like this. And this is what I'm going to talk about just by changing the way that you think. And what I'm going to be discussing is scientific. This is not religious based. This is not my opinion about anything. This has been proven scientifically, and it has been discussed for centuries, for centuries, all the way back to Egypt. This has been discussed. I had an injustice this past week. You're talking about the slight temporary frame rate drops. I don't know what he's talking about. Type temporary frame rate drops. It said they locked me up for cyberbullying a mayor for 10 days. I just got out days ago. Now I have to play their game in the theater. Well, why were you bullying the mayor? Here's the thing. This is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about 7 principles. Now, you don't have to believe me. But if you learn these 7 principles, it will change your life. You'll be able to have a religious discussion with anyone, no matter what branch of religion they're in. It doesn't matter if they're a Christian, Muslim, or Jew. Okay, you will stop being biased toward religion. The Christian white man religion or anything like that, because you will see it from a different lens. You won't see it as the white man's religion or some religion that they made up, or you won't ask questions about whether or not Jesus really existed or not. Was he a white or a black man or any of those things? Because none of those things matter. Those are all distractions, and they really aren't the point of any of the teachings that, quite frankly, when you go all over the world and you engage in any type of religious comparative study, you're going to see that they all exude the same principles. No matter we're talking about Taoism, Zen Buddhism, Christianity, the 72 different sects of Islam, and then Judaism. No matter what religion you are in, what I'm going to talk about applies to them all. It is called the key, okay, that unlocks these differences in everything that you're looking at in the different religions. And see, like, okay, so like, look what you're saying. His minions stole my uh his minions, my glasses are chrome heart, in case anybody's wondering. Somebody asked me about my glasses, they chrome hearts. Um, a lot of people, I'm looking in this is what you got to stop engaging in. You have to stop engaging in this victim mindset of what you got to stop talking in terms of what somebody did to you. You got to start talking and acting and walking and moving in terms of what it is that you want. And that is all that you focus on. So the first question I need to ask everyone is, what do you want? Please don't say anything. I want the government to leave me alone or anything like that. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what is going to make you happy in life? What type of dreams did you have? Okay, do you have dreams? How do you visualize yourself in 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now? What is it that you want? Okay. We're not here to talk about um, injustices or the criminal justice system. I'm here to talk about you today. And if you don't want to talk about you today, then you need to go to another channel because I'm going to block you in the chat if you want to have discussions on other things. Because today is Sunday, and I will say that the reason that a lot of you experiences the things that you do because you do not have any spiritual foundation. A lot of you are heathens that are talking about that you want to be sovereigns and so forth, but you don't have any spiritual grounding or anything like that. So today we're going to try to address that. All right. See, like, look at this guy right here. What do you think about? I'm gonna have to block you because he want to talk about a judge who corrupted inequity and allows unjust. I don't think the judge did anything. I think that you're ignorant. That's what I think. I think that you don't know anything about equity, and I don't think you know anything about any of the things that you're talking about. I don't think you know anything about anything that you're talking about. I don't think anything. I don't think the judge is wrong. I think that you are ignorant. I think you're ignorant of spiritual laws, and I think you're ignorant also of positive law, which is man-made law. You don't know anything about equity. Nothing. You don't know anything about equity. I study equity every day. None of y'all know anything about equity, how it's applied, or anything like that. You don't know the principles. You don't know how to invoke it. You don't know anything, how it's being utilized by the judges in the courtroom, or anything like that. You don't know anything about equity. That's just a term that y'all are throwing around. And you have to stop doing that. And you have to start admitting that you're ignorant of things and stop blaming people. You get this victim. This victim mindset is so bad in this space right here. That's why I have to get out of it because it's like a disease. Let me tell y'all something. You got to get away from negativity. Like people like this in the chat who talk like that, you need to stay away from them. Do not associate with them. Do not associate in any capacity with negative people or people that have victim mindsets because it is a disease. And they will not ever acknowledge it themselves. It's a disease. They refuse to look in the mirror. You know, in the Oracle of Delphi, there is posted, it says, know thyself and to thyself be true. So the first thing that you got to be true to is to yourself. And if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone else. You know, so all this victim blaming and everything, like I love what Teddy Roosevelt said. He said a sovereign cannot make excuses for his failures. You know, you have to take accountability for the power that inheres in you. Now, what does that mean? There's a power in you that you refuse to recognize. When you're in a constant victim mindset, you're just acknowledging to yourself and to the universe that you're powerless. That you're powerless. There's nothing attractive about that. You constantly complaining about somebody who's putting their foot up in your ass. There's nothing, especially as a man. There's nothing attractive about that. That's just weakness. The universe doesn't favor weakness at all. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you because somebody put their foot in your ass. They're going to eat you alive, just like a lion. All you have to do is look at nature. In nature, weakness is not. No one feels sorry for anybody in nature. Everything in nature gets eaten up. If you're weak, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to pat you on the back and say it's going to be all right. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. You better acknowledge that first. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody owes you anything. Okay, you got to get rid of this welfare mentality too, thinking that you have some sort of entitlement right to something. You don't have an entitlement right to anything. And every time you point your finger, there are three fingers pointing back at you. Because if you are in some type of situation, you are the one who puts yourself in that situation, regardless if you think you did it or not. Ultimately, at the end of the day, any type of adverse situation you find yourself in, you put yourself in it. Now, if you don't want to acknowledge that, if you don't want to take accountability for that, you can never be helped. You will be in a perpetual cycle of victimhood, and the rest of your life, you'll be constantly complaining how other men are putting their foot in your ass. And you will be doing that in front of women who have no sympathy for you whatsoever. I'm gonna put it like this. I understand why God put a certain type of thinking in women and everything. They don't acknowledge weakness. Women don't like weakness. They're attracted to strength. And you think when you get on these platforms, you start talking about how somebody put their foot in your ass, that is attractive. That's not attractive, especially for a man. And we got to get your mind right. Stop all this victim blaming in my chat. I don't feel sorry for you. What I think about a judge? Anytime I see that, I think that the judge did everything correctly because you were ignorant. You didn't take time to educate yourself properly about equity. You just went to an echo chamber. You saw the word and started throwing it around. Because if you really study equity, you would understand even the way you were framing that didn't make any sense. So let's get into the discussion today about being a man. Okay, when you're going to be a man. Okay, the first thing in being a man is you acknowledge and you take accountability for your life and the things that you have done in your life. It's nobody else's fault. It is not Trump's fault. Okay, it is not the mayor's fault. It is not the judge's fault. It's not an attorney's fault. It's no one's fault but your own. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look in the mirror. And we're going to use 7 principles. Let's talk about them real quick. There's 7 principles that regulate the universe. They are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Now, when you learn these 7 principles, you will understand the law of attraction and how it functions in all its different aspects. Okay, these are the 7 principles that underlie the law of attraction that is spoken about in every religious text all over the planet in various ways. Okay, you got to understand a lot of times, like for instance, in the Bible, in the New Testament, which was written 2,000 years ago, whenever you see Jesus discussing something, they're using their frame of reference. Okay, so if he says something like, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you could tell this mountain to be cast into the ocean and do not doubt it in your heart, but believe the things that you have said as if they have happened. Nothing shall be impossible for you. Okay, he's talking about a principle that is shared all throughout the religions, and other patriarchs have said that in various different ways when they go back to their various cultures. But everybody went to Egypt and sat at the footstool of Tahuti. Okay, all these religions have a point of origin, and it is in Egypt. It wasn't called Egypt at that time, but it's a point of origin. It's Egypt. Nobody's going to save weak from bullies. Nobody's saving anybody weak from bullies. That's victim. That's that victim type stuff. That's weakness right there. What you're talking about. Nobody's coming to save you, and there is no invisible man in the clouds that's coming to save you. A lot of you have a lot. I want you to think about the qualities of God or what you call God, and let's talk about that word God real quick. The word God is only about 1,700 years old. It's only about 70. The word first originated in around 750 AD with the Germans. It comes from the word gut, meaning good. Okay, so there is no word God in the Bible. When you look at it in the original Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek translations in the New Testament and so forth, there is no word God. Okay, there are words Elohim, Elo, Yehovah Elohim, Adonai, El, uh, 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 and a couple of other words, that translate, that they have translated as either Lord or God in your Bible. But these words, there is no word really God. I want to first of all concentrate on that because that's something that y'all can't argue about because the Bible wasn't originally written in English. It was translated into English. And when you go into the original text, there is no word God there. Okay. The word there is Elohim. Elohim is a plural word. Elo is a singular word. This is why in Genesis it says, let us create man after our image and after our likeness. That's why it says us. That's why it's spoken in a plural form. Because when you look at it at the Hebrew, when you had a yod and a meme on the end of a word, it denotes a plurality. Like in the word sham, shamayim, or cherub, and then you have cherubim, seraph, seraphim. These are plurals. Okay. So first of all, we have to acknowledge, first of all, that the word in there is not the word God. It is not the word God. The word God is a word that was created about 1,300 years ago. It did not exist in Jesus' time. It did not exist in Abraham's time. And if you want proof of that, all you have to do is go to Matthew 27:46, when Jesus is on the cross and he says, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which is being interpreted as, my God, why have you forsaken me? Okay, Eli is Aramaic, which is cousin to Arabic. Every time Jesus greeted someone, he said, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, to the chagrin of all the Christians out there, yes, because Jesus spoke Aramaic. And every time you look in the Old and the New Testament and you see Jesus greeting people where he says, Peace be unto you, he's saying Assalamu alaikum. He's saying Assalamu alaikum every time. I know that, Christians, like, they don't think about things like that because they don't think, well, what language did Jesus, the word Eli is, and Allah is closer to the original word than God, because Allah is the Arabic rendition of Eli, which is Aramaic, and then El, which is Canaanite, and then Elo, which is Hebrew. So anyone got a modicum a modicum of common sense can see that Elo, El, and Eli and Allah are all different dialects, and somebody trying to pronounce the same thing. Kind of like when you're up north and somebody says shorty. I was growing up, the New Yorkers, they coined the phrase shorty. And then when it got down to south, we say shouty. Hey, shouty, what's up, shouty? But up north, they say shorty. Okay. They're saying the same thing, but it's a different dialect. That type of thing has always gone on this planet. Right? As things go from culture to culture, the pronunciation of it changes. So we can put a little bit more faith in the word El. That's not my mouth. Excuse me. We can put a little faith in the word El, okay, because all the angels in El, Mike El, Dan El, Ezekiel, Israel, Uriel, Raphael, Samael, all of the angels, because those are sentences. Michael means who dares to be as God. Daniel is God is my judge. These words all mean things. Yusufel, it means God will increase. All these words have a meaning, and they have they derive from the Semitic languages. Okay, you really should be trying to give your the word Lord in Hebrew is Adonai. Is the word Adonai. Yahweh is the tetragrammaton, which is Yahweh, which is really interesting because when you get into Hebrew, there aren't any vowels. The nuktas and the nuktatains that you see, which are the dots and everything, those are added in so one culture can influence their pronunciation over another. It's the same thing in Arabic. When you get to the original Arabic script, there aren't any vowels. There aren't any fatas, kesras, dumas, dumatain, fatatain, kesratain, or anything within that language. Those are added by the Persians that gave an influence over how they wanted to pronounce things. So, yes, we could even probably question how Allah was pronounced. But here's an interesting fact you probably don't know, that before a Prophet Muhammad came and introduced the Tawheed, or the oneness of Allah, prior to that, they were worshiping a female deity called Allah. Anybody can look this up right now. You can find it. I wanted to bring this up because you will see that what they have done to everybody is they've removed a feminine aspect in a lot of things. I've noticed that they've disguised it. And so when we get into the principle of gender, you need to be conscious of that. There's always this masculine and feminine element that is present. All of the Egyptian gods had consorts that were a male and a female. It wasn't no one particular gender that dominated the other. It was a gender that the yin and the yang that came together to form a perfect whole, which is why they're having this attack on relationships today and destroying families, because it's disempowering you. If you notice at the top, everybody's keeping their families intact and they understand power of having a marriage and so forth. It's only the people down at the bottom that's destroying their relationships. All right. So El and Ra, so Adonai, yeah, the word Adonai, Adonai is where they have the word Lord from. Okay, so they got different words that have been translated into the Bible, but they translated most of all of them either God or Lord. Yahweh, or the Tetragrammaton, the Yahav Wahav. Okay, they pronounce that Yahweh or Yahweh, but you'll say Yahweh Elohim. It's not a name. It is Ohi, who is of the Elohim. And this is the same thing that you see in Psalms 82:6, where it says that Elo, he said that you are sons and daughters of the Most High, and all of you are gods, but you shall die like men. He was really calling them Elohims. But then we have to get into the discussion of what an Elohim is, which you don't see any of the mainstream religions engaging in? What is this word Elohim? And why is it a plural? I just saw a pastor the other day tell his congregation that this was the Trinity that was being discussed. All right, so he's referencing 1 John 5:7. Well, anybody can get on the internet right now and you can see that prior to the 15th century, 1 John 5:7 didn't exist in any Bible. There was no Bible where that is in there. So the Trinity is a made up, it is a made up doctrine. 100% is made up. It's Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. These three are one. That is not in any Bible prior to the 15th century. That should be some easy research for anybody to do. And that one little statement right there should have killed the entire branch of these this Trinity belief because it's a made up. It's made up. It's made up. Anybody can research this. Just use Google and research this and find out in 10 seconds. Is that verse in any Bible prior to the 15th century? All right, it's not there. All right, so that's made up. Okay, all right, so it couldn't possibly. But the reason they did that is because in the New Testament they got to give you an explanation of this plural deity speaking. It said, and God said, it really should be saying, and the Elohim said, let us create man in our image and after our likeness. And this is also in the Quran, also, where it says, we told you to do this, Muhammad. We told you that, but people act like they don't see that. And this is one of the reasons why there's so much many problems circulating around religion because of an improper interpretation, and the translations are incorrect, and the transliteration is incorrect because you're listening to people who are ignorant. Just like they're ignorant, just like the people who talk about the sovereign citizen information, you have the same thing going on in religious circles because people are biased, people are racist, and they want to have their influence or of their belief system over someone else's when there's only one God and there's one law. And that's what we're going to talk about today. There's only one source of everything. And I want you to think about the qualities that all of you say that God have. God is all knowing, all powerful, and all present. Okay, well, if God is all present, you cannot put God in a particular space and time. You cannot put God in heaven. Okay, God cannot be in a place. God can't put himself in his creation because God encompasses the entire creation. Because so we're talking about the all in all. The word omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. The word omni means all, the all in all. When you're using the word all, you can't add to it because where would you get it from? When you're using the word all, you can't take away from it because where would you put it? It is the all in all. So let's first of all, let's not limit the creator of the boundless universe. Okay, let's try to put him in his proper character as encompassing every space and time. It would be better to look at it that you're existing in the mind of God. The universe is mental, as it says in the Quran, and that is I'm sorry, in the Kybalion, and that is the first principle. The universe is mental. So we have to understand that everything in creation starts with a thought. It starts with a thought, which is a mental vibration. Okay, even in your religious text, this is talked about. And God, how did he bring everything into creation? He spoke it into existence. Even in the Quran, it's the same thing. Kun fayakun, be and exist. All right, so that the first act of bringing everything into manifestation was a spoken word. Now, is there a science behind that? And if you are like the creator and made in his image and after his likeness, can you perform that same thing? I just told you. I can't explain why they defend the Holy Trinity. I just told you anybody can go right now and see 1 John 5:7 doesn't exist in any Bible prior to the 15th century. If they read that and they can't comprehend it, you can't help that person. I'm going to help somebody. The Latin Vulgate is the oldest Bible in existence. There is no original Bible. I hope you know that. Nobody knows what the original Bible is. There's not one. Right? The Bible itself is what a composite of books they put together in the Council of Nicaea in 320 AD and 365. When Constantine he started merging all the different factions of his kingdom together under one umbrella under the banner of Christianity. But it's 66 books, and then you have the apocryphal books that were taken out, but that are still in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is the first Christian church. Okay, that's why they call themselves the Universal Church. Everything derives from that. And then Martin Luther came, and he rebelled. So we're going to talk about vibration. Vibration. Okay, so I want you to think about this. I want you to look at God as a singularity of vibrational frequencies, vibrating so fast that he appears to be standing still. And you call this nothingness or the void. But really, what it is just a sea of vibration where nothing exists. No thing exists in it. However, ask yourself this question: can something ever come from nothing? Is that possible for something? It's an impossibility. Something can never come from nothing. So the no thing, or this void, or this triple darkness, or this 0 point energy that all these people like to give these fancy labels to, has to be a certain state of existence where nothing has been clearly defined yet. All right? Nothing has been clearly defined. So when a voice is spoken or thought into it, then it takes on the shape of that vibrational frequency. It begins to move and vibrate, and that's what gives you manifestation. That's why I'm sorry. That's why every body or every scientist will acknowledge that when you look at everything under electron microscope, it's all made of the same thing. It's all made of atoms, protons, electrons, and neutrons vibrating at different rates of speed, giving everything its different colors and textures. When you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, within that spectrum, you are only able to perceive a very narrow band within that spectrum. But outside of that exists an entire world that you can't even perceive. There are states of existence beyond your perception. A dog whistle would be a very easy example of that. When you blow a dog whistle, a dog can hear it, but you can't. Okay, so there are states of existence that exist beyond your tactile senses or your ability to perceive. And let's just talk about the senses real quick. Your senses really come down to just one sense, and that is the sense of touch, because everything has to be perceived by you, has to touch you. Light has to touch your eyes. Sound waves have to touch your eardrums, right? Food has to touch your mouth. Okay, so it's the touch. Okay, you have to be touched. You really have one sense, and these different organs in the body are being constructed to reinterpret it in various ways. Different bands that come from the electromagnetic spectrum. The human body really is an amazing creation, and anyone who thinks it's not an intelligent design behind it, they're just foolish, in my opinion. All right. So, right there, we're going to start right there. We're going to start with the nature of reality. The nature of reality is everything begins with a thought. Nobody can argue that. If you look around you right now, everything in creation right now began with a thought. Somebody had to think of it first. Okay? So it's a thought. So anything that you think about, that image in your mind, once you think it, it exists. It exists. You just created something immediately. However, it doesn't exist on the physical plane. So this is where the next law comes in, the law of correspondence. All right? Thoughts correspond to certain vibrational frequencies that manifest themselves on the physical plane. So this is what correspondence is: as above, so below. As above, so below is talking about the mental, spiritual, and physical plane. The highest level is spiritual, mental, and physical. Okay? It takes everything begins in spirit, and then the mind creates a thought, which creates a vibrational force that slows down. Water goes through the same process, solid, liquid, and gas. Thought goes through those three states as well. Okay, so when you see the thought, it exists, but you have not manifested it on the physical plane, because the physical plane is the plane of time and space. So it takes time for it to manifest. And there is a process to do that. You have to think about it consistently. And this is why when you look in religions, they tell you to pray every day. And you have to pray a certain, this is where that practice came from. It came from a science, okay, and not people not understanding the root of the science. Okay, so they sent people to be examples. Look, you don't understand what I'm talking about? Do what I do and you'll get what I get. Okay, I need you to pray 7 times a day, or you need to pray 5 times a day. I need you to pray once before you go to bed, because that's when the superconscious is open, and that's when you can impress the superconscious the best. I need you to pray when you wake up in the morning. I need you to constantly focus on what it is that you want. The more that you can do that throughout the day, the faster you'll get whatever it is that you want. That's what this is. All right. So that's where we're starting first and foremost. So if you are in a situation, you'll say, "Well, Yusuf, I didn't think about getting arrested. I didn't think about having the car accident. I didn't think about somebody coming and taking my children from me. I didn't think about, this." You start making all these excuses about things that you were not thinking about. But that's not how vibrational frequencies work. Like attracts like. So if you're in a negative state of mind, you're gonna attract all the same vibrational frequencies that match that frequency, and they're gonna be drawn into you. So it's gonna be certain situations and occurrences that happen in your life that match the frequency. And this is why you keep people saying that you have to remain in positive state of mind at all times. If you only want something positive to happen in your life, you have to constantly be in a positive state of mind. This is the evil of of a Marxism and socialism and communism, because they teach a victim mindset. To get that over onto people, they have to eliminate religion. That's why one of the pillars of it is atheism. Okay, not to believe in any type of religion, that you can do whatever you want to do, and that other people are responsible for the ills that come upon you. It is a satanic doctrine. It is a satanic doctrine. When you see people in the chat constantly talking about victim mindset, that is the devil. That is not of God. You can't find nothing in any scripture. I don't care how much they use God, Jesus, and all of that. That is not being preached anywhere in the Gospels or anything, the things that they are doing. And that sometimes I will say that it appears to me that there are people who have been planted within this movement. So you got to stay away from all negativity. This is the reason when you start elevating yourself, have you noticed that people get out of your life or leave your life? That's because your vibrational frequency has changed. You got to put yourself in the rooms and the places you want to be. If you want to be with wealthy people, you got to start surrounding yourself. Go to where wealthy people are at. And then their vibrational frequency will begin to match yours. This is why they say bad association spoils useful habits, or you make money according to the five people you hang around the most all the time. That's because you're matching frequencies. So if you don't want that frequency, like if you keep staying in the projects, everything in the projects is the frequency of chaos and disruption. Okay, you're matching that frequency. When you look in a wealthy people's neighborhood, all the yards are cut, everything is neat, everything's peace, everything's quiet. They don't want you in the neighborhood because you're bringing chaos. You're bringing this disease called poverty, this vibrational frequency from over here into this space like this. It's like a disease. So the first thing that you have to answer is yes, what do you want? I guarantee you, if you look at anybody who's unsuccessful, they cannot answer that question. They cannot answer that question. If they are in a victim state of mind, it's because they don't know what they want, and they're drifting on the sea of life like a boat without a sail. They're just drifting and just running into things and everything because they don't have any direction, because they don't know what they want. Even in your scripture, it says, "Ask and it shall be given. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you." Okay, that's his way of saying, what do you want? It's ask. Ask, seek, knock. Ask. Ask. What do you want? It didn't say how. Here's the next thing. You're worried about the how. The how is not for you to worry about. The how is for the creator of the boundless universe to worry about. You don't worry about the how. When you have the how, you're putting your mind in a future tense that doesn't exist. Okay, the past and the future does not exist. When you live in the past, you're living in regret. And when you live in the future, you're living in worry. Okay, you have to root yourself in the eternal now, because that's the only thing that's real, the eternal now. And that's why you hear everybody say, when you do the law of attraction, you always have to state it in the now, the great I am. Not I was, not I'm going to be, I am. You have to be that what you wish to become. And then the universe begins to reflect that. If you're going to be a king, you got to start acting like a king first. And kings don't walk around complaining about people got their foot in their ass, pretending like it's something masculine. You sound like a bitch. You have to identify this is why they tell you to put pictures up. This is why they tell you to write down your goals, because those are the first step of bringing it from the unseen into the seen. That's the first step in taking a vibrational frequency and changing it and mapping it out. I'm sorry, y'all. I got this new camera. I didn't have it plugged up. All right. Sorry about that. I like this new camera, man. This new camera is like, I like this camera. I'm learning about photography. I kind of It's like kind of exciting and everything because I've never been big into photography, but in doing all of this, and having to force myself to learn about you know all different camera type of specifications and different things like that is just really interesting. But I'm no way near being a professional in any of this in any capacity whatsoever. I'm still a beginner. All right. All right. So everything is cool. Yeah. I just didn't have the power hooked up. But all right. So where were we? Where were we at? We are talking about the seven principles. Okay. The seven principles. Once again, those principles are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Okay, you master these seven principles. Now, where were we at? We were on what? Vibration. We went from correspondence into vibration, and everything thoughts with a thought. That thought corresponds with a vibration. When that vibration occurs, it comes into the physical world. It starts demonstrating different physical characteristics. For instance, the first physical characteristics is polarity. Everything has two sides. Okay, everything in creation has two sides: up, down, right, left, in, out, hard, soft, male, female. This is why you can make the argument when people talk. Oh, you think what are the people, the feminists and everybody always trying to say you thinking in a bi they try to say that you only think in a dual way. Well, yeah, because that's what nature is. And if you think any kind of other way, you're crazy. Because the definition of insanity is to go against natural laws. Like for instance, like when you go against a law of cause and effect, because you're going against that law. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same thing. That's the law of cause and effect. But if you keep doing the same thing, expecting to get a different result, you're crazy because that's not how that law works. Just like the law of polarity, there are only two sides to anything, everything. There's only a male and female. There isn't anything else. There's nothing else. You can make that argument all you want to, but it's going to fall flat on its face because it violates one of the principles of nature. And you see it manifested everywhere in plants, animals. But for some reason, you think you can just create something else. You're just headed into destruction. You can rationalize it in your mind all that you want to. You're not going to get anywhere because nature is undefeated. The poor will always be around because there'll always be people thinking poverty thoughts. This is what he was talking about. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. When you come in and you try to attempt to teach people how to fish, they think it's something else. They think, that they gotta, oh, now I gotta meet some person, or you got some secret information that I need, or something like that, when it's none of those things. It is none of those things. The answer is, what do you want? And can you think about it consistently every day? Can you exclude yourself from any negativity or negative thinking whatsoever consistently over an extended period of time? Now, what is the importance of polarity? The importance of polarity because it's going to help you address your character. Now, if you want to manifest things, you have to have the certain type of character to be able to do this. So the first thing you have to do is you have to know thyself, to thyself be true. If you can't be true to yourself, if you can't tell yourself the truth, you can't tell anybody else the truth. You can't live in the truth. You can't tell the judge the truth. You can't tell attorneys the truth. You can't do anything if you can't be truthful to yourself. And the first thing you need to do is sit down on a piece of paper and write down all your negative characteristics about yourself. Are you easily angered? Are you fearful? Are you lazy? Are you disrespectful? Are you hateful? Are you envious? Are you greedy? Are you slothful? Those characteristics all have a corresponding opposite. Fear, courage. Hate, love. You understand what I'm saying? You find out the corresponding opposite, and that's how you write your affirmation down. It takes 18 days to change a habit, but that's when you start waking up in the morning. You address all your negative characteristics, and then you write an affirmation to yourself. I'm whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Repetition is the key to learning because that's how you impress the subconscious mind through repetition. So you in constantly repeating that to yourself, now you start to exude those characteristics. But it can never happen if you can't be truthful to yourself. This is in Paul's book when he was talking about the fruits of the spirit, which was very that I'm not a big Paul fan, but that was he spoke the truth right there. Well, the fruits of the spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such things there is no law. Against such things there is no law. Beautifully stated. Right there in Galatians 5:22 to 23. Beautifully stated. It's the opposites attract. Be ready. Really, it's like no, it's not opposites attract. It's like attracts like. That's not true. It's like attract. You attract what you are. You attract what you are. You attract what you are. You cannot. There's no other. There's no other law that states that. You might think in your mind that you want something and you're not getting it, but you don't have the characteristics to attract that because that's not who you are. Like, for instance, you can want wealth, but you don't have a wealth mindset. You don't have a wealth disposition. So you can't possibly attract it into your life. You cannot hold something that you haven't already established in yourself. You have to be that which you wish to become. See, a lot of people think it works from the outside in, but that's not how the nature of reality works. It works from the inside out. So that's why it's important for you to address who you are and character this is why I'm always talking about people with victim mentalities. I'm not talking about them just for any reason. I'm talking about them because they're godless people. And I guarantee you, when you talk to a victim, they don't believe in God. They don't have any type of spiritual grounding whatsoever. You can hold a conversation with them, and it's going to come out. They have no spiritual ideology whatsoever. You're not, I don't understand. You're not grounded in anything. You're not grounded in anything. So you, like I said, you're just floating. You're just floating through life, and you're just allowing anything to happen to you. So now, when we get into alchemy, you have something called mental alchemy. This is what I was just explaining to you. Alchemy is an understanding that everything has a polar opposite, and you can change something from one state to its opposite state. But they have to be share the same. They have to be on the same frequency, or share similarities. For instance, you can't turn water into uh, uh, Well, you might. I think hydrogen and helium are different polar opposites of each other because you can make a hydrogen bomb. I don't think that's a good example. I'm going to say what is you can't turn wood into gold. You can't do that. But like when they say you turn lead into gold, well, they have to share something similar for you to flip it from that one state to the next. Like hot, you could turn hot into cold. You could turn hard into soft. They have to share, they have to be on that stage. So that's called alchemy. So the science of alchemy. So you're doing what is called mental alchemy because your mind exists in a habitual state of negativity. So you have to be able to identify what those negative aspects of yourself are and then write down their polar opposites and then focus on that so you can transmute your character from this negative character into this positive character. And now, when you start to embody this vibrational frequency, now the universe will start to attract all those positive aspects into your life, and then your life will begin to change. This is science I'm talking about. This is not religion. Let's look at something. Let's let's look at a story Jesus told in the Bible. Let's go to Matthew chapter 17. Let's go to Matthew chapter 17. This is another place where Jesus told this story two times in the gospel. He tells it in Mark 11:22-26, and then he tells it again right here in Matthew chapter 17. And this is a real interesting this is an interesting story. And we started number 14, 17:14. It says, and when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic. His mind is affected. His mind is affected and sorely vexed, for oftentimes he falleth into the fire and often into the water. His mind is affected. Now, usually when your mind gets affected, that's a lot of toxins and parasites. I've seen this firsthand. If you detoxify somebody, their mind will clear. So this is why, and I'm bringing up this point because there's something else Jesus is going to say about prayer and fasting after this too. He's going to go on, he's going to say, and Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, why could we not cast him out? And Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if you have the faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible for you. Okay, this is Jesus the Christ sitting there telling you that, and watch the heathens now in the audience. They're going to start talking about, well, you can't. Oh, he just told you nothing shall be impossible for you. But what were the qualifications? You have to have the faith of a mustard seed. The mountain can represent anything in your life that may seem insurmountable, and the ocean will represent the ether, the sea of ethers will get swallowed up. Whatever that problem is, the vibrational frequency, you can dissipate it and it will disappear. It will dissipate into the sea of ethers as if it never existed. You have the power over all things, but you have to believe that. That's why they say the only way to defeat a God is to believe that he's not one. If you can convince a person he's not a God, you got him. That's all they have to do is to convince you you're not one and all your powers are shut off because you think you have to petition something in the sky. When it says in Luke 17:21, what did Jesus say? He said, look ye neither there nor here, for the kingdom of God is in you. They're going to try to change that and say it's amongst you. That's why I say you see the devil. The devil, oh, it's amongst you. It's amongst me. That didn't make no sense. The kingdom of God is among you. He said, look, ye neither there nor here. He said, the kingdom of heaven is in you. He said, seek ye first the kingdom and all things will be added to you. And then he goes and says, and look ye neither here nor there, for the kingdom of heaven is in you. Somebody doesn't want you looking inward. And that right there that I just said, it is in alignment with going all the way back to Egypt. All the way back to is consistent against through all religions and all doctrines. So the thing about it is how you got to change the way that you think. If you're going to write up an affidavit, write up an affidavit to yourself. Make it a great I am. Why don't you sit down and map out your life? Why don't you write a list of 100 things that you want to do in your life and then break it down to things you're going to do in 20 years, things you're going to do in 10 years, and things that you're going to do in 5 years, and things you're going to do in 1 year. And see if you can even think of 100 things you want to do in your life. I fulfilled so many of them. I went to Egypt. I went to Greece. I went to Venice, Italy. I went all through Europe. I've traveled out of the country. I've been to tropical islands, and I've made nice amounts of money. I've dated beautiful women, and I've done a lot. I've had nice cars. The last 3 cars I've purchased, I bought right off the showroom floor. These are things that I've done just because I express a desire to have them, a desire to you can have whatever you want. All you have to do is ask for it. How you ask for it is by you consistently thinking about it all the time with emotion. The word emotion is energy in motion. You have to put some energy in motion to impregnate the thought. The thought is impregnated in the subconscious mind, what is impressed with emotion. That is the intense desire to have it. You can't have something that you don't want. And also, I will say this also, because you'll hear people out there say that you're unlimited. And I don't agree with that. You are limited. You're limited because it's anything you can conceive and believe you can achieve. Your limit is your ability to conceptualize, because you can only conceptualize things that you have seen or experienced. Because if I told you to think of a color that doesn't exist, you wouldn't be able to do it. You can only think of things that are in your mind, that you can only imagine things you've experienced and construct things like that. So that's your limitation. Your limitation is your imagination. Your limitation is your imagination. So you're going to stop being a victim. You're going to get away from this Marxist mentality that was sent from hell, from Shaitan itself, this perpetual blame cycle that you find yourself in, and you're going to take up the scepter of power, and you're going to assert yourself for who you are, a child of the Most High. He said, I blew my spirit into man and he became a living soul. You have all of the qualities of the universe in you, all the 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and spirit. From dust you came and dust you will return. That's the earth. You have a 98.6-degree body temperature. You breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Fire needs oxygen to burn. When it burns off carbon. Fire in you. You have a solar plexus. There's a light in you. There's some sort of fire in you. Your body is heat. Something is burning in you. Then you have water. Your body is 75% water. And oxygen is needed for all of that to move. And then you have spirit, which is in the blood and in the semen, which animates the entire structure. Everything in the universe bows down to you, but you just don't know it. All the different elements. You know, when when you're thinking about you see a lot of programs on TV. What is that? The Airbender. They try to put messages in the cartoons for the youth, which I love the Airbender. because it gets into the five elements and Full Metal Alchemist. And I watch these animated series and I'm amazed at how much truth that they put in them. And they kind of did the same thing with me when I was growing up with Stan Lee. Stan Lee was a genius. Stan Lee was a serious genius because in his comics he surrounded fantasy with real science, gamma rays and cosmic rays and all these different things like that. He put science in it, but built the fantasy and put on top of it the science. So as a youth, you're reading this, you're developing science. Doctor Strange is real esoteric science that's being taught in Doctor Strange. Always has been. He went to sources and got real information. Same thing with Harry Potter. That's why a lot of Christians didn't like Harry Potter, because they understood that they were teaching real witchcraft in Harry Potter. That wasn't fake stuff that they were talking about in Harry Potter. But these are sciences that you don't have to be afraid of, is my point. They demonized it because they don't want you to understand and come into the knowledge of it. Because even magic has a good and bad aspect to it. What they like to call it white magic and black magic, when really magic is just a term. Like the three magi that visited the Messiah, they were magicians. The word magi comes from the word magician, and magician was the highest science. You have the sorcerer, you have the witch. You have they give all these different names to these different individuals, but the highest level is the magi or the magician, but who uses his mind. You don't need a wand or something like that. You can use your mind to manipulate reality, your thoughts. So let's move on. Let's move on to rhythm. You got to understand that everything in the universe has cycles. Even in your Bible, it talks about it, talking about there's a season for everything. You have to understand that everything moves in cycles, even in the business world. Everything moves in cycles. You have to be able to identify the cycles when they're coming. You're not going to stay in a negative state forever, or something bad has happened in your life. And you're only really, good and bad or subjective interpretations of events too, because the universe is just in a state of suchness or isness. It doesn't contemplate things as good or bad. You are the one who interprets that. You're the one who put that label on that good and bad. So you can decide. How many times have you thought something is bad in your life, and then down the road, you're like, wow, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. And it turns out to be a good thing that it happened. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he made Moses the God. That's Exodus 7:1 that you're talking about right there. He said, when God said, I'm going to make you a God to Pharaoh, and he said, and Aaron is going to be your priest. That's Exodus 7:1. They don't like to talk about that, though. They don't like to talk about that. He really said, I'm going to make you an Elohim. What is the Elohim? It would be good to visit. I went and paid a visit to the British Museum in London. If you ever get an opportunity, I've been to all of the museum, probably most of the top museums in the world. I've been to the Museum of Cairo. I've been to the British Museum in England, which was very nice. I've been to the Louvre Museum in France, and I've been to the Vatican, which is a museum in itself. And it would be really good to go to the British Museum and go visit the Sumerians and really study that culture, and where you get this concept of an angel with wings on his back. There are gods with wings on their back and so forth, and how a lot of the stories that you find in the Bible have similar stories in other cultures, but they predate the Bible by 10,000 years. This will help you kind of free yourself from the bounds of religion and start to go into a state where you kind of see what was being what were they trying to accomplish with you. They were trying to show you who you are. That was the goal, to bring you into a state of realization of the true nature of reality and the true nature of who you are. But it got crystallized into what you call religion. The word religare means to tie back. It was supposed to be a discipline, but it is morphed into religion, into religion. crystallized. And this is why when you go into Masonic temple, they'll have all the religions on the wall. They'll have that G in the middle, and around it, they'll have all the different religions, because they understand that. They understand that all the different religions all derive from one source. It can only be that because everything had to start out with one truth. There can only be one truth. There's not a multitude of truths. There's only one source of everything. There can only be one truth. It can't be a multitude of truths. You're $60,000 in debt, you can get out of that easy. But you won't get out of it if you keep concentrating on the debt, and you have to take action. You have to take action. I've gotten out of debt worse than that. I had a $60,000 tax bill. And then some other bills, $30,000 this, $20,000. I got rid of all of that within 1 year. Within 1 year. You can do that too. But you gotta start out and do it. A lot of times the reason you fail in doing a lot of things because you procrastinate or you don't focus on it. You're not focused on, you haven't disciplined yourself, because it's going to require discipline too. Because you're $60,000 in debt, you did that to yourself. Just tells me that you weren't disciplined in your spending and would spend a lot of money on a lot of things that you couldn't afford. When you get a credit card is not free money. Credit card is a medium to facilitate transactions and also to establish a financial record, and also receive some rewards as well, like points and things like that. But it's not free money. You should never spend money that you don't have. I don't use a credit. If I don't have the money to cover it in my bank account, I don't. You put it on my credit card. If I can't pay for it off of my credit card in 2 days, I don't buy it with my credit card. That's a habit that you have to establish for yourself if you want to have good credit. But if you're the type that thinks you're going to let it, revolve for a couple of months, you shouldn't have a credit card. You're irresponsible with debt. Abraham did. Abram came from Ur of Chaldea. That's what he came out of the abode of demons, Chaldea, and that is why that's Samaria, or ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers. And this is also why you find all those stories in the Bible. You find them in the Sumerian tales as well, because they predate the Bible, but they're exact. They have a Garden of Eden story. They have an Adam and Eve story. They have the same stories, but their stories predate the Bible by 10,000 years. Anybody can go and check this right now. It's called the Seven Tablets of Creation. You can go pull it up off the internet right now and read it for yourself. The descent of Tammuz and Ishtar, the Gilgamesh epics, the Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, all these different tablets that are written. And cuneiform is the oldest language on the planet. Cuneiform and hieroglyphics. They're the two oldest languages, written languages on the planet. People say they're writing, but I would say, okay, well, if they wrote it down, you got to be able to read it. What are you talking about? How you gonna write down the language, you can't read it and speak it? It's just ridiculous. Some of the arguments they make just be ridiculous. Yeah, Abraham came out of Ur of Chaldea, out of the abode of fire. Some people and try to interpret it as the abode of demons. I don't think that's the correct terminology for it. But the word Hebrew is a word that's not a people. The Canaanites called him that when he crossed over the Tigris Euphrates. They called him an Ibri, which means to cross over. That's what the word Hebrew means, to cross over. Like the word Arab means to wander about. Like when Hagar, she got sent into the wilderness and wandered about. Right? And the Ishmaelites, they are, you know, they descend from that line, and they call them Arabs. That mean to wander about. These are not names of people. These are descriptions of events. But it's not that ain't how people are identified. There's really no language called Hebrew. It's really Chaldean. That's what Hebrew really is. It's Chaldean. It's the Chaldean language. Global greetings. It's my first time listening today. I'm logged in from Nevis in the Caribbean. Oh, I'm coming to Nevis. I'm coming to Nevis. That's a offshore haven. Second right after Cook Island is Nevis. I heard the universe telling me to create a dialectic portal using secret to magnetism details. Well, if you want to know the secrets of magnetism, you can. There's a man. His name is You have Nikola Tesla, which was an electrical, but he had a cousin. His name was Edward Leeds Scaling, and he has a book called Magnetic Resonance. You can go right now to the website. It's called Edward Lead Leedscaline, and he have a book called, I think it's Magnetic Current. Yeah, it's Magnetic Current. He gave you the secrets. Now he made the coral gardens down in Florida, and he's the only person in history that's been able to imitate what they did in Egypt, and he don't know how he did it. He like have a stone that's 90 tons, and he found his perfect center of gravity and made a door out of it. They could never find out he did it. He made it for his girlfriend who he was in love with, and he wrote a book. He was the magnetic genius. Nobody talks about him. And Nikola Tesla was the electrical genius. So they say electromagnetic, and that's how they built the pyramids, which is magnetism. Because if you take a magnet on one side, it pulls together, you return it polarity, and they push away, and that's how you levitate things, by reversing the polarity. I don't know why these people act like it's some big secret of how the pyramids were built. They try to say 100,000 slaves because they want to try to play down the fact that we're talking about a black civilization that is the most intelligent ever to grace this planet. Racism is at the bottom of all of that. A lot of the interpretations that you get from about Egypt, which even the name Egypt is Greek, means burnt faced people. Interesting. I know about Nevis. That's what I'm doing for a living. What you mean I know about Nevis? My next business is offshore asset protection trust, irrevocable trust. Yeah, I know about Nevis. I know about Cook Island. I know about all of them. So I'm telling you, coming out there. Yes, it's we can connect up on it. Yeah, I know about Nevis. I need to come out there. As a matter of fact, I would love to connect with you because it would be nice to come out to Nevis and meet somebody I know. And as a matter of fact, I'll do it. I'll do it in short order too. I'm serious about that. Send me an email at admin@sbcuniversity.com. Admin at SBC University, because I am getting ready to come to Nevis. I got to go to Cook Island first, but I might go to Nevis first because they're out there in the Caribbean. So I might go to there. I might go there first to Nevis. But I'm definitely going. I'm definitely coming to Nevis. It ain't even no question about it. In the very near future, like in the next couple of weeks, I'll be in Nevis. It said America has more pyramids than Egypt. Yeah, but they're not built like the Egyptian pyramids. See, this is where y'all get caught up. Y'all keep talking about I've been to the pyramids here down in Mexico, here in America, down Poverty Point and all of that. That ain't nowhere. No pyramid in America is remotely close to anything in Egypt. Not even remotely close. We can build all the pyramids here in the West. You can't imitate the pyramids in and over in Egypt. Also, if you take Giza and to put all the land masses together, because we had the continental drift, you will find that Giza is in the direct center. It tells the speed of light. It gives you pi. Tells the difference from the Earth to the sun, all kind of thing, and it also gives you the directions to all the other poverty point, all the other centers on the planet. If you go, the only other thing that they got close to it is down in South America and Machu Picchu when they created this stuff, and they don't know it only can be made with lasers. All the bricks are cut so precise and fit together. They don't need mortar. However, they weigh tons. You got you got four 70-ton bricks in the ceiling, about 80, about I don't know, 10, 15, 20 stories in the air, and there's not a crane on planet Earth that can lift one of them. That's not in the West. See, when y'all try to play that game like Egypt is in the West, that only works with people. I've been to Egypt. I've studied it all my life. I already know that is not. These are not the same people. It's not the same people. Those are imitating. Okay, just like the teepees. The Native Americans, there's a reason they made teepees. All right, they're trying to emulate this because there was some sort of mass destruction. some sort of catastrophe happened on the planet. It's a flood. That flood story is real because they talk about it in every country on the world, and also there are watermarks on a lot of the architecture in Egypt as well. So there was some sort of deluge. The Sumerians talk about it, okay, as well. Utanashbim, and when Enki went to him and told him it was going to be a flood and told him to make a sham, and that's another thing when these interpretations, like in the Old Testament, they said we're going to build a tower to heaven. They said we're going to build a shem to heaven. Well, that can be interpreted as a ship because Noah was told to build the same thing. And when you think about it, it don't make no sense to build you're trying to build a building into outer space. This didn't make any sense. And this is and that's because everybody wants to interpret antiquity as primitive. When you look at everything in there, it's more advanced than what we have today. They had electricity, they had all kind of things. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't even imitate the structures from that time period, the architecture or anything like that. How are they more primitive than you when you're still struggling to catch up? Know about multiple floods. I don't know about that, but there could have very well have been. But there were a flood on this planet, and that's what happened. You're looking at a migration that happened all over the planet. That's why when you go into Africa, when you leave and look at the Yoruba religion, they got Obata Allah and all of these different. You see that you'll see that all of their religious gods match up to the Egyptian gods. And same thing with Greece. Same thing with Rome. And even with Christianity, they just call them angels. They don't call them demigods. They just give Michael and, they just gave all. But it's the same thing that they're doing in the Greek and Roman and Egyptian pantheons. They just gave them different titles. Just gave them different titles, but it all matches up. So there was some sort of mass migration after some sort of destruction. Something happened on this planet. The Sumerians talk about there was a planet that got destroyed. We know there was an asteroid belt. They talk about that asteroid belt. They call it the hammered bracelet. And they talk about when it came through the solar system, how they ran into it and destroyed it. This is in stone. Anybody can read it and go and look it up themselves. They ain't making any of this up. This is information that is widely known that a lot of scholars have investigated that I'm talking about right now. We have Zachariah Sitchin, when he made Genesis Revisited and all of that. Stairway to Heaven, he got his books. A lot of different individuals talked about these subjects, and they've been talking about it for a long time. It didn't just start occurring. Been talked about for a long time. And they don't want to talk about the pictures that are on the pyramid walls either. They got graves and things like that on the pyramid walls. They don't want to, and flying saucers and things like that. They don't have no explanation for it. Down in South America too, and they got the same thing. When you go on the plains of Nazca, go and check out the plains of Nazca. You can only see that from the air. They're like, who made this? Where it looked like somebody coming from another planet would only be able to see it. Still there today. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about an Egyptian civilization was found in the Grand Canyon, and one was found underwater off the coast of, I think it was South America. Nobody talks about that. Nobody wants to talk about it. Why nobody is talking about these things? You can go on YouTube right now and watch the video. Them pulling Egyptian statues out of the ocean. Whole civilization discovered underwater. Nobody talks about it. Why is that? Yeah, Merkaba is a light body. Light, Ka, and Ba, the Ka and Ba, the spiritual and physical body of the individual, where you can convert yourself into a Merkaba, you can travel the universe. That's surprising somebody knows about a Merkaba. I say, we got some educated people I said we got some educated people listening. I'm impressed. Let me see what y'all know in the chat. These get better every time you do them. The value is overwhelming and overlook nothing is free. You have my complete gratitude for this piece. Thank you. Yeah, that's why, the universe abhors the vacuum. That's why you have to give in order to receive. Because if you take something out of something, something that to rush in and take its place, there is no empty space in the universe. That's why it's impossible to get something for nothing. Nobody's saying that to be mean to you. You get because you got a welfare mentality. I'm telling you, you're crazy and you're insane because you're violating the principle of nature, and that's why you're poor because you don't want to give anything, and you want somebody to give you something for nothing, and it doesn't exist in contemplation of reality. You got to get out of that mindset. You have to give in order to receive. Once you start giving and you give freely, that's the lesson that was trying to be that God was the Elohim were attempting to teach the Cain and Abel. And Cain didn't want to listen. And that's what a lot of you have the same mentality as Cain. You holding on to this. Money follows the same principle of electricity. It's in a continuous motion. That's why they use electrical terms to describe it. Currency. It's a current. That's what the whole story of the three talents was about. One of the guys took the talent and buried it. He said, "Oh, evil, wicked servant." Yeah, you have Atlantis and Lemuria. There's a lot of documentation to substantiate those ancient civilizations too. I might take issue them being predecessors to Egypt and Samaria though, because a lot of people try to say that, but Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia, there is no indication of where they came from. They just appeared out of nowhere. They disappeared. It wasn't a civilization that just developed over time. It didn't develop. It just appeared at a high state and a high level out of nowhere, and then it descended down over time after. Because in Egypt there was a priesthood. There was a pre-dynastic Egypt for the dynasties, and then you had 36 dynasties, or where you had pharaohs. But prior to that, there was a priesthood that ruled. Okay, that priesthood is the one that instituted all the laws and so forth, the spiritual laws that those pharaohs had to observe. This is why when you look on a chessboard, what's right next to the king and queen? Bishops. For you to rule, you have to have the sanction of God, and you're only going to get the sanction of God when you know God's laws. How are you going to rule over people if you don't know the laws of God? And now we have to get into a discussion of what are the laws of God. I'm not talking about the 613 statues that are in Deuteronomy and Leviticus. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are for the children of Israel. Those laws, those are statutes. Okay, I'm talking about what are the natural laws? What are the natural laws of the universe? Well, we're discussing them right now. Nobody can deny that everything vibrates. Scientists have already confirmed that. That movie Prometheus, they were trying to show you there that those extraterrestrial beings, of course, they made them white in the movie, but they use sound frequency for everything. Everything was using sound frequencies because they understand the true nature of the universe. The true nature of the universe, everything is a frequency, a vibrational frequency. So if you want to change your condition, you have to change your vibratory rate of speed. And there is a methodology to accomplish that. And it begins with the way you choose to think. I can get with that. That's a nice I won't disagree with you, Steve. I'm not going to get in a debate about that right there. I won't. I don't think you can confirm that. Because that's so far back in antiquity and everything, and the information they have on it is so sporadic. I wouldn't. I'm not going to challenge it, but I don't. I would challenge anyone who tries to make it definitive, but I won't challenge that because it makes sense. My spirit that made sense to my spirit. And that's why I'm not going to challenge it. Is that the Romans named the purse Persa. So, Yusuf, in your opinion, why did they knock off the nose from the Sphinx? What was the melanated nose? I read this book. It was Nile Valley Civilizations by Anthony Browder. Anthony Browder is a very, very uh, favorite Egyptologist. He's an African American Egyptologist, and I read this like when I was 22, and of course, they say to hide their, to hide their ethnic uh, ethnicity. They're trying to shield that. But when you go over there, you can clearly see who they are. And you could also go over there and see those Persians over there trying to cover it up. So they chipping off all the block. Everybody's questioning that. They got so much stuff just chipped off the wall. Man, it's like they defacing everything. And then they have if you go to the British, and they try to blame it on the Greeks. And I'm like, nah, man, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. You could just see it. And you can hear them back there working. You have machinery back there working and stuff like that. Like they back there chipping stuff off the wall, trying to lighten up pictures and all of that. You really should go and see for yourself. And once you go and see for yourself, you'll say, yeah, you need to keep all that in the British Museum and let the Vatican keep all of that. I don't want y'all to have none of that. Don't take it back over there. You're going to deface it. But for some reason, they didn't mess with the Valley of the Kings, though. Some about them burial chambers they don't want to touch. And when you go over there, the hieroglyphics are still. I went there too. The hieroglyphics are still like they were just made yesterday, and clearly see black people. They won't teach. Yeah, they won't teach. They try to demonize the Egyptians, and say they what's interesting to me is that Egypt have all these high sciences, but all of a sudden, when it comes to their spirituality, they were ignorant brutes. Is that what you want me to believe? That I see the evidence of high science everywhere, but when it came to their spirituality, they were ignorant brutes that worship animals, and that's why they had put on animal heads and things of that nature. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. All right, so let's keep going. So we went through rhythm. The next one is gender. Okay, this one right here is I got to take some time on this one. And this is the masculine and feminine principle because you'll see a lot of women out there they will try to say that masculine and feminine exist and I got masculine and feminine in me as if she has some of the qualities that a man has. Okay, let me clear up something first and foremost. We don't have to use the term masculine and feminine. We can use yin and yang. We can use positive and negative. There are a lot of different characterizations that we could use because we're not talking about penises and vaginas when we talk about masculine and feminine. We're talking about different energies. We're talking about an active energy and a passive energy, like on a battery. A battery has a positive pole and a negative pole. Okay, the ions go from one side of the battery to the other. One is in a constant receptive position, and one is in a constant active position of giving. Okay, that that relationship is universal. It exists on the spiritual, mental, and physical plane. That's what they mean when they say universal law. So when we say Mother Earth, the reason that the earth is characterized in a feminine aspect is because you put seeds in her and she gives back like kind. Okay, it's Mother Nature. The reason that we're saying Mother Nature is because you put a thought out into her, she gives it back like kind. Okay, if you take a female, if you put a thought in her or put some, impregnate her, she gives you back a child that is after you and after your like kind. Well, it's the same thing with the conscious and the subconscious mind. Conscious mind is the seat of the wheel, it impregnates the subconscious mind. Conscious mind is active, therefore it's masculine, and the subconscious mind is receptive, therefore it's passive, it's feminine. Okay, and that's why it says guard your heart for either of the issues of life. What it's talking about is you got to be conscious, the seat of the wheel, not to allow your subconscious mind or things from the outside entry into the subconscious mind. This is where I'll get into a discussion about the who are they? The Scientologists. I'm not a Scientologist, but I had an opportunity to read L. Ron Hubbard's book, Dianetics. And I thought it was in, and it just was very very evident to me that L. Ron Hubbard understood these principles as well. This is the reason why Farrakhan was considering putting the Nation of Islam in it and things like that, and his followers didn't understand because they didn't understand the science of mind that was behind it. What was being discussed is okay in his book he characterizes the conscious and subconscious as the analytical mind and the reactive mind. That's the conscious and subconscious mind. He says analytical mind because the conscious mind is the seat of the will. That's why it makes the decisions. That's why the man in a relationship with a woman makes the decisions. Right? We make the decisions, not you. Okay, a feminine is not a leader on any plane. Is the feminine the leader? So right here, that's what that is a teaching that's trying to get you to go against nature. And when you do that, that is how chaos happens. When you go against nature, okay, the deciding factor is always the masculine, and it impregnates the feminine, and the feminine brings it into manifestation. The feminine is needed to bring it into manifestation. Without the feminine gateway, there is no manifestation. So it's crazy. That's why when they took the feminine out of religion, like for instance, in the Bible, it says wisdom has built her house and she's hewn out her seven pillars. Well, they keep referring to wisdom in every religion is always referred to as a she, but that's just the modern way of saying Mother Nature. Okay, they didn't use the word wisdom in antiquity, but but the feminine portal to manifestation or the portal to manifestation is always going to be considered feminine on the mental, spiritual, and physical plane. Feminine. So the seat of the will is masculine. That is where you got 180 degrees of positive and 180 degrees of negative, and you make decisions. Whatever decision you make, you allow it into your subconscious mind. Like when you decide to change your character, and you get up every day and write these affirmations and repeat them to yourself over and over and over again to impregnate or to impress upon the subconscious mind, where you start to exude those characteristics. That's how you change your character. A field torus is an energy model that feeds on itself. We use words like poles, north, south, red shift, blue shift, but the true understanding should not be a deceptive terms because they do not explain the universe. You can't say what should not because this is how they explained it in antiquity. So it's not, I don't know. You can characterize it modernly however you want to, but this is how everything was explained over 10,000 years ago. They did use masculine and feminine type titles to explain things, but it got recharacterized like yin and yang and the Orient and so forth. Everybody took it and just made it into their own version because as long as you understand the underlying principle, it doesn't matter what titles you use. So that's what I think that you're confused on. You're caught up in the label. I'm not caught up in the label. I understand the function and the nature of it. That's what you need to understand. The label can be expressed in many different ways, but it's the principle behind the principle of operation behind is what you need to understand. The label doesn't necessarily can be deceptive, but I think it'll only be deceptive to a person that doesn't understand the underlying principle. And that's why you should be being taught principles, not methodologies. When you understand the principle, you can see it in everything. It doesn't matter what they call it. That's why you'll look at a religion and you won't get caught up in their belief because you understand the principle that's being used in operation. To them, they will think that that is something to do with the religion, but it's the principle behind it and the way that they have chose to utilize it and put it into operation. And there's no variation. There's no way. There's different methodologies to apply it because like there's different ways you can impress the subconscious mind. You can have a picture on the wall and look at it every day. You can write down your goals and read them every day. You can listen to audios and listen every day, but it's still the principle behind it is repetition. The principle behind it is repetition. It requires repetition, whatever way you choose to do it. You can do it any kind of way you want to. So it's the principle of operation, and that's why we're going over these principles right now. Okay, you can go over to your master metaphysicist. I don't care. He's not a master to me. I don't know who you're talking about. You're talking about there's only one. That's ridiculous. You're getting into some sort of religious type things. Right now, you sound jealous. I don't understand what you're saying because all the masters on the planet, they understand everything I'm saying right now. It's not, it's just everybody's operating through the same principles. I don't care if you're talking about the Illuminati, the Masonic order, Everybody's utilizing the same principles. And you got what you caught up with somebody call himself a master, whatever. Go. That's who you need to sit at the feet at then. That's who you need to sit at the feet at then. Somebody said, "Do you make decisions out of love or fear? What is love? Explain to me the science of love. What is love? What is your definition of love? Fear is an illusion. If the universe was created with love, where did fear come from? That's why it's an acronym for false evidence appearing real. But I would be very interested in your definition of love because I'm truly wondering what you think love is. Because I don't think the average person on this planet knows what true love is. Okay, so let me ask you a question. So this is not being explained to you right now in a simple way. Let me get y'all off. Look, if y'all want to talk about, if y'all want to go and promote your man, go over there to this channel. Be in my. They over here in my chat trying to promote somebody else, y'all. It's just evil. It's just evil. It's just jealous. This is just jealousy, is what it is right now. Just jealous. Is that he's always getting all this attention? They want to go and promote somebody else. It's like, well, go over there to their channel. What am I saying that's wrong? What can he go over there and say? I guarantee you, there's nothing he can say that's any different than what I'm saying right now. Not nothing. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. Listen to everybody. Everybody's saying the same thing in a different way. So some people may resonate with the way he explains it. That's fine. That's fine. It said women and submitting men is what you know for business. It says if you haven't already smash the like button for me. Smash the like button. It said women submit this submission thing. It's not. I don't. Okay, when I think of the word submit, I'm not. I don't look at it as dominate and or something like that. It is a recognition that you have a partner that you're willing to follow. I think that would be the best explanation of it. It's like, okay, I like where he's going, and I'm willing to go with him because I know all the decisions that he's going to make are going to benefit the whole. And those decisions now they're going to come through me or whatever. I think that it would be. I think the best way to describe it. It's like a male and female relationship. I always give y'all this analogy of um, a train station. There's a northbound train, southbound train, westbound train, and eastbound train. And a man, once he's made a decision on where he wants to go in life, he's headed to that destination. And the women are at the train station deciding which direction they want to go on. And then they pick a train and hop on a train going in the way that they want to go. But the woman also has to know where she wants to go and what she wants. And she chooses a mate that is headed in that same direction. Okay. And then they can use their masculine and feminine energies for the promotion or the prosecution of that goal. Once they understand how they work together, it's not like a man can't be a woman and a woman can't be a man. I can't manifest anything without the feminine, and she can't manifest anything without the masculine. So it's just stupid for people to sit here and fight amongst themselves off the masculine and the feminine. All right, so don't get distracted. I won't let them get distracted. Even if it's a document submission means to give it up. Jealousy is a dangerous disease. It is a dangerous disease. There's envy and jealousy, envy and jealousy. You got to that's why I had to put them out. Like the reason you put people out of your chat, you can feel their energy and you have to remove that energy. I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do in life is remove negative energy from anything in your space. That's anyone. You don't give them any, immediately remove them. If there are people who only call you every time they want something, block them. Block them. If they're not reciprocating energy, what you only keep people in your circle that reciprocate the energy. It's a relationship of give and take and give and take. You don't need to be around takers. They're going to drain you. You don't need to be around people who put doubt in your mind. You don't need to be around people who are always angry. You don't need to be around people who are always in a state of victim mindset because they're constantly blaming somebody. Like, for instance, like you have people that talk about, um, you have people that talk about white supremacy. It's like, okay, all you're doing is perpetuating white supremacy by keep speaking about it. You have to talk about what you want. Okay, you're not doing anybody. That's why you have to separate yourself from that. It's like, look, I can't talk. I'm trying to empower myself, and you're not knowing it, but you're disempowering yourself. You're hamstringing yourself by your internal dialogue because you don't understand how the laws work. So first, I'm going to try to educate you on it, and then if I can't do that, I have to remove myself from your space. I like that. When you have a good woman, you'll have a great man. That's true. That's scientific. See that right there? You see how you made that statement? That's scientifically correct. That's a mathematical equation you just said. Because when you understand how the laws work, you can look at that's where wisdom comes in. Because like when you read like Zen Buddhism or something like that, you like it says like for instance, I like this passage where it talks about meditation. It says meditation is like if you're walking in the woods and you see a pond and it's so perfectly still that it looks like glass, you don't even know it's there. But then you can see insects jumping on it, and you can see the ripples and everything. They said that's like what meditation is. Meditation is when the ripples stop and you can see straight to the bottom. Other words, that's why they want you to sit in the asana position. So um, there's no, every time you move, it's sending electrical impulse to the brain. So you have to quiet that by sitting in a perfect position, so that so that traffic is not moving back and forth to the brain, and you have complete stillness and silence, and then you can see straight to the bottom, or what they call clarity. All this is in the biblical wisdom. It is in the biblical wisdom. It's just expressed in a different way. Yes, it is. A lot of the proverbs have an Egyptian origin. You can go. I think it was an Egyptian who wrote some of them. But a lot of that stuff, like milk is for babes and meat is for men, that's an Egyptian proverb before the Bible ever came along. For things that existed before then. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like you'll see this wisdom and everything disseminate down through generations and centuries and crystallize into different religions. Men started these religions based off the knowledge and understanding that they had. They created a religion behind it. But at first, it was teaching you the laws of the universe and how to get them to work for your benefit. Like for instance, in the esoteric circles, there's a statement. Um, uh, you can you can only defeat you cannot defeat nature. In order to defeat nature, you must obey her. In order to defeat nature, you must obey her. What that means is that you have to bring yourself in alignment with her laws, and then her laws will start to do your bidding and bend to your will. But you can't get her to bend to your will until you follow her laws. So in order to defeat nature, you must obey her. I kind of think that kind of goes with modern women also. Women have a nature, and it's not going to change. They like power, they like wealth and money, they're vain creatures and things like that. You're not going to change the nature of a woman. So if you want one, you're going to have to figure out how their nature operates and learn how to make that bend to your will in some kind of way. But the first thing you have to do is acknowledge what her nature is. You have to acknowledge what her nature is. No woman I had No woman I had this explained long. I don't know what that means. Number two is not taking accountability for what happened after she said yes. What? It says the connection is only as strong as the weakest link. The Bible was oral before it was written. Listen, okay, they said the same thing about the Quran because there isn't any original Quran too. They'll say that the Quran that the that the that the Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad inscribed it on their hearts. Your heart can be interpreted as subconscious mind, which means memory. They put it inside of your memory. So they said the same thing about that too. But my question to you is, if you take a circle of people, if you take a circle of people and put them in a circle, and I whisper something into the ear of this person on to the right, and I say whispered in the next ear, and it goes all the way back around. When it gets to my ear, is that going to be the same thing I told this person? Because every time you change one word, okay, and then the next person may change one word, and then the next person changes a word, and just so on. Then you want to translate it into a different language, and then one word and things like that, because y'all ain't even using the original language. I got to word God now when that's not even in the original language. Are you really still getting the true meaning of what was originally intent and spirit of what was first said when it had passed through so many different hands? It would seem to me that you would go back to the source and study the source, and then juxtapose that and say, look, this is where this came from, and I can see how it got watered down. Because here's the original principles. I see the principles in this, but I see how they're trying to express the principles, but I also see how I got watered down and bogged down with a lot of opinions and stories and things like that, and lost the point of what it was. What is the point of this book? What is it trying to teach you? People have different um, people have their different people have their different opinions about heaven. I put work in researching female language and leads a lot about them, the hard wiring of female biology. Yeah, I mean, well, you also, but you should start in studying yourself first. You got to study you and figure out who you are. You won't understand her until you understand yourself. You understand what your nature is and who you are. Because you can attract a female to you by being on your purpose and doing what you're supposed to be doing as a man. When you put yourself in perfect order, you attract a woman in perfect order who understands what she's supposed to do. First, you need to be concentrated on you and do what you need to do. Get yourself right. Correct. A lot of dudes do not know how to be a man. I mean, I'm not going to, being a man to me, it's like, and that might be as a result of, the culture of how a lot of young men are being raised today too. There's a cause and effect that gets into cause and effect, which is my next thing. Let's talk about cause and effect real quick. For every cause, there's an effect. For every effect, there's a cause. Okay. There is no such thing as luck. Luck is a name for a law not recognized. Luck is a name for a law not recognized. Everything has an explanation. Everything happens for a reason. Everything can be traced back to a cause, even the shaking of a dice. There is certain things. How many times you shook it in your hand? What kind of surface did the dice fall on? How many times it rolled? All those are scientific mathematical equations that can be traced. There is no such thing as luck. This is why you have mentors. Do what I do and you'll get what I get. This is why a battleship can float. You do it the same exact way, it'll float the same exact way. This is why airplanes can fly. This is why you have order in the universe, because of cause and effect. It is the scientific method that is utilized. All scientists use it to make discoveries, cause and effect. This is very important because this breaks everything down, the law of attraction down into a science now. This allows it for there to be a methodology that you can copy. And this is when we're getting into. Do what I do and you'll get what I get. Oh, you don't understand what I'm saying? Okay, pray ye this way 5 days. Pray like this and you'll get the results that you're looking for. How did you able to survive divorce? How was you able to remain a positive parent? But by understanding how the laws operate. I'm not saying I'm not human and I don't have emotional downturns, but that's where the effort comes in. You got to make an effort to stay positive. Sometimes it requires an effort. First of all, thinking positive, probably one of the most laborious activities that you can engage in is self-control and mental thinking. So it's a very laborious activity. That's why a lot of people are not successful, because they can't discipline their thinking. But it takes effort, just like it's the same amount of effort that it takes to go into the gym and get in perfect physical shape. There's just some people can do it better mentally, and some people can do it better physically. The ideal is to be able to do it both mentally and physically. Anybody who can do it either one of those, they have the capability of doing it the other way. They just need to exert the effort and do it. There are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. There is no such thing as coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Everything is subject to law. Nothing escapes the law. That's one of the principles of the universe. Nothing escapes the law. Nothing escapes the law. Everything is cause and effect. And that's why when they tell you also that there is no cure for something, that's an impossibility because, first of all, everything has a polarity. A thing is bound the way it is unbound. A thing is unbound the way it is bound. Okay, so you have to reverse the polarity. There's no such thing as something that doesn't have a cure. It's just you don't have the knowledge of it. That's what they're really saying. We don't know how to cure it. But it's no such thing as something that don't have a cure. Anything can be done. It can be undone the same way. It can reverse polarity of it. Everything is broken down to a science. So there's no such thing as something that can't be cured. Anything can be cured. You just don't have the knowledge of it. You might not want to admit that, but because of the principle of nature, what is done can be undone. What is bound can be unbound. Acknowledge your nature, not weaponize it. Well, no, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to weapon. Nobody's saying weaponize the nature. Um, like I said, there should be a goal. There should be a goal. How's there going to be some sort of weaponization if we're on the same team and we're headed for the same goal? You know, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you this is something that I think advantage to people who ever played sports and who've been on a championship team. I've had the pleasure of playing on a championship soccer team. I was a real big soccer player when I was young. I played basketball, football, and all baseball and all that too. But I was real big on soccer when I was young, and I played on a championship soccer team. But before I got on this championship soccer team, coming up through the leagues, I was on a lot of bad teams, but I was always the best player on the team. But my teams were bad and everything, and so when I finally it was a coach. He was from Germany. He was. I remember he was from Germany. When I was getting ready to go up to this next level, he was scouting, and he came to scout me, and he wanted me on his team. And when I got on this team, I was no longer the central star. It was the first time that I wasn't the star of the team. He took a whole bunch of stars from all under the league. He was able to locate them down, and he put us all on one team. And what it did was it showed me the importance of teamwork. Like the first year we went to the championship 2 years in a row. First year we went to the championship and lost. We came in second place. And I like how we handled it. We took it. He made one change. He went and got us a championship goldie. And boy, when we got that goldie and came back the next day, we played the same team again in the championship and beat them. And what I remember about that championship run is that everybody plays a position. Everybody plays a position. Ain't nobody's arrogant. Nobody thinks they better than the next person. It's like that whole mind of the team becomes a hive mind, and everybody's just playing a position. Everybody know where their strengths are. Everybody knows what their weaknesses are. Everybody know, hey, I know my man. He got his position. I know he got it. He got it on lockdown. I'm not even worried about him. If it come that way right there, he got that. But I need to be when it come my way. I got what I'm doing, and there's no ego. There's no egos. And I think that's the challenge of becoming a coach or becoming a business owner is, can you put together a team, and can you show everybody the goal and eliminate egos and put everybody on the same page, and everybody wants to play their position, and everybody's good at playing their position, and everybody don't want somebody else's position. They're happy about their position, and you moving together as a team. That's a championship team. And that's why I think a lot of athletes, they'll go to the pros, and even though they were good, they never had a chance to play on a championship team, so they get to the NBA and all they really care about is making their money. They may be very good, but they never win anything because they wasn't on a championship team because they don't know how what the energy of a championship team is like. A championship team ain't no egos. There's no egos. Everybody's bought in. Everybody's bought in. Everybody's focused. Everybody's on point. When you experience that, that's in business too. That's what makes you a good CEO because you know how to get rid of the people who ain't bought in. That's why you have to fire a lot of people. You have to fire this person. This person only here to get a check. You got to get out of here. You haven't bought into the vision. You haven't bought in to the direction the company is going in. So I got to get rid of you because you're just an opportunist. You're just here to get some money, a paycheck. And right now, I'm building this thing up, and I only need people around me who share the vision, who see the dream, who see the goal, and who have the same infectious enthusiasm that I had in the prosecution of it and the obtainment of it. And when you get that, that's what Napoleon Hill calls in his book the mastermind group. Mastermind group. You get 5 people on point like that, you can take over the world. But getting those 5 people is tough. And this is where you have to have leadership skills and be able to identify team players and people like that who are going to add value to whatever it is that you're trying to do. But selecting your team and the people you're going to be around is important, as well as the fact your mate, who you're going to be with, your wife. That is the most important thing. Who are you getting to stand by your side? Important. That's so important to me right now. I am so I scrutinize women to a very high degree. Very high degree. I'm looking at a lot of different things. It's like, look, you got to have these qualities. It's not. I don't even want to go out on a date. I don't want to talk on the telephone. I don't want to even try to have sex with you because I understand the power behind that too. I understand that too. Me putting my penis in a pool that have a disparate amount of vibrational frequencies in it could adversely affect my success. I don't put my pole just anywhere. I'm like, nah, man, you've been indiscriminate with the men that you've been laying with and everything. I don't know what's going on there. That was the value of virginity. If you really want to get down to the science of virginity, there's a science behind that too. We got a discussion about that. But you see a lot of guys, they just want to sleep behind other men and do like even in high school, like dudes running trains and stuff. I could never, I'm like, man, why would I want to be in line behind another man and sleep with a woman? Some beast type stuff. I was all, I always felt like they had a beast mentality. I said, these dudes is beast. Some beast stuff. This is not the activity of a high value man or a man that values himself. These are the acts of men who are desperate to get something that they feel like they don't have an opportunity to get. I'm conflicted. I'm connected in Cali and have a short list of somebody like one homeboy who's general that commands army. I'm cool with the top slow. I don't know. Soccer is one of the best sports. It teaches selflessness, sportsmanship, and teamwork. The reward of those results are invaluable. It is, man. Man. Let me tell you, they've taken soccer to man. The way that they juggling and the things they doing with soccer balls now is incredible to me. They done made me back into another fan and everything. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing with soccer. When I was in Spain, they I was in Madrid. Man, they got soccer fields everywhere like we got basketball courts. They got soccer fields everywhere like we got basketball courts. You can tell that's the number one sport. It's soccer. It's young men, they just round kicking a soccer ball and stuff, bouncing it up against the wall and everything. It is the sport. And I understand because I was in love with it like that. So I did Pele was my hero when I was a little boy. And he's the one who created the scissor kick that everybody copying on commercials would never give him any credit. He's the one who created the scissor kick. Pele did that and never get any credit from Brazil. One of the greatest of all times. Never gets talked about in modern time. That's not good. That's not good. That's why man becomes the side. I don't know what that is. Illusion better than it. I don't know what he's talking about with that right there. We're talking about laws right now. What I'm talking about is laws. Understand, let me tell you, when you understand how the laws operate, then you'll understand how to move. You'll understand how to move. You'll understand. I'll give you an example. You won't be so quick to steal because you understand that whatever you take, something's going to be taken from you in exact proportion to what you took because the universe favors balancement. So you don't ever get away with anything. This is why they say what goes around comes around, or do unto others as you would have them to do unto you, because those are different ways of expressing a universal principle of balancement. Everything rebalances itself. So you can't do that. That karma and all these different terms that you hear is all about balancement, perfect balancement. That's what perfection is, balancement, perfect balancement. So you can so you're gonna see that it's a waste of time to steal. It's a waste of time because you're never gonna get ahead. It's like you spinning your wheels because you take something, something's gonna be taken from you. Why keep doing that? You're insane. You're stupid. You know, I have to question your intelligence. I got to start questioning your intelligence. This is why it's necessary to understand the natural laws, and you will govern yourself accordingly. And then you will start to um, live your life in such a way, in a disciplined way, that will be for success and abundance. You'll start to experience success and abundance when you start doing things the right way. But you can only do things the right way when you are told what the right way is. And the only way to truly understand what the right way is to deal with something that is immutable. The only place that truth exists is in something that doesn't change. And the only thing that doesn't change are natural laws. Everything else is in a constant state of flux. Vibratory frequencies constantly changing. This is what the Hindus mean when they said they call it illusionary or Maya, the illusionary state of reality, because it's constantly changing, which is a good thing because we can change it to whatever we want by putting our mental influence upon it. But the laws that govern it, the seven pillars that hold up the superstructure, that is talked about in Proverbs 9:1, are these seven principles that I'm talking about right now. They underlie everything in manifest creation. I always write a message comment, and he always read the second text one that finishes the comment. I don't know. Because I'm not looking, I'm sitting here talking, and the thing is moving, and it's moving as it's talking. So I just look over here at I just look over at the thing, and it might have already scrolled past. Is what I'm trying to say. 'Cause I always write a 2 minute. What it says is Grandma Wilson, ex Cali governor, would always say, "Do the same thing and expect different result is insanity." Yeah, it is insanity because it goes against a natural law principle of cause and effect. Cause and effect dictates that if you do the exact same thing, you will always get the exact same thing. If you make a cake exactly the same way, it's always going to taste exactly the same. It's only going to taste different if you change something in the process. Okay, so that if you want your life to change, that's why you have to change things about your life. You have to be the change that you're looking for. So it all begins with you. It all starts with you. You have to look at things differently. Instead of always looking at the glass half empty, you should look at it as half full or something like that. You decide how you choose to interpret events in your life. Like for instance, I guarantee you this: there are going to be bad things that happen to you. These are going to be the tests that they talk about. The test, or the negative circumstances happen to you. That's your gym to work out in, because you have to force yourself to say, "Oh, must be something better coming." I don't know why this negative thing happened, but you know what? This must be a good sign from God showing I'm being pushed to work. Yeah, I just got evicted out of my house, but I did ask God for a mansion. So God must be sending me on my way to the mansion right now. Must be on my way to the mansion. Those things like that, when you start doing events like that, It might happen 4 or 5 or 6 times in a row, but I guarantee you, if you pass all those tests, man, it's going to be abundance waiting at the end of that. It's a test. I'm telling you, you're always being tested. There is some sort of intelligence. Nobody is saying that there's some sort of automaton that underlies all of manifest existence. It is some sort of intelligence. It's an intelligence. And it responds to you, but it also tests you. It also makes you prove yourself. And this is where they get this characterization of God from, of what these human characteristics that people kind of ascribe to it. This how they choose to anthropomorphize God. Why they do that? Because it does demonstrate some sort of almost human-like qualities, in the testing and the things like that. But then also, once you, like when Jesus said, "I do the things that always please him." You're not violating any of the laws. When God shows up in your life, you'd be a fool to ever do anything to spit in his face again. You don't even want if God, you know what I'm talking about when a miracle has happened in your life, or when God shows up in your life. And I'm doing this show because I was looking at a YouTube video where there's a guy, he is incarcerated right now. And I see his situation as exactly the same situation I went through. I was just listening to the proceeding, and I was listening to what he was saying, and I just felt a kindred spirit with the brother. And he's a white guy too. But I understood how he felt and what he was attempting to do. But also, he has to understand that you're not going to get through that if you are not spiritually grounded. You have to be spiritually grounded, because you're going to be dealing with despair. And to deal with despair, there has to be hope. But hope and faith have to be derived from some source. And what better source is there to come into a knowledge of what the natural laws are that operate exactly the same way every time? And once you can acknowledge that and you understand that, that's when your faith begins to increase. Because now you know for a fact something happens, is going to happen, not if it's going to happen. Like in the Sirach of Jesus Christ, God was talking about, he said, "Show me a time that I have not answered." And that's true. But you have to do things the right way to get the answer. You have to first recognize and acknowledge there's a principle in existence and in operation. And once you acknowledge that, understand its order of operation and its methodology, and then you have to incorporate that into your conduct. You got to be positive at all times. The negativity is to test you to see if you can maintain a positive disposition. That I can't express that. If you want to be successful, you have to learn how to be positive. When Anthony Robbins came out with positive mental attitude and all that, all of those guys that are talking, they talking about all these principles I'm talking about right now. This is science I'm talking about. That's why what they're saying is true. What they're saying is true. They're all saying is the secret, all these different things that have come out. Yeah, they're telling you the truth. Now, some of them have different levels of where they go into, like, I think that Kevin Trudeau right now on the internet, he is probably the best person at this, because he was, he claimed that he was a part of a secret order, but I can't doubt him in any of that, because I read his book. I see the things he talked about. He understands too many of the nuances behind all of this. And he's very, very versed in it. And look, he came out of that civil contempt whole order, because that wasn't imprisonment, that was civil contempt confinement that he was in, that they kept him in for almost 8 years or something like that. Came out, didn't skip a beat, right back on track. Came out, skip a beat, then right back on track. Ain't missed nothing. Because that's how it works. And you watch them and you can see, yeah, that's when you'll see, and you start studying wealthy people, you'll start to also see they all say the same things. That's what Napoleon Hill was doing in his book, Think and Grow Rich, and the 16 Laws of Success. You know, He was commissioned by Carnegie to study wealthy people, and he did it for 20 years. And he was able to pull out principles that they all shared. And they all go back to these things I'm talking about right now. Because why do you think they join these secret orders? To learn the principles. I think it's seriously underestimated the power of perception and the literal changes the way we think. Once an individual actually does, the universal law begins to start educating us consistently. It does. I'm going to say this also. He who controls the paradigm is God. He who controls your perception and the way that you think, he's your God. He who controls the paradigm is God. Your whole conceptualization about the nature of reality, somebody gave it to you. Somebody gave it to you. It was given to you. You didn't even have a chance to really. You may have the ability to fly, but somebody off the rip told you you couldn't, and you believe that, and that has been made a part of your being. What is the true nature of reality? Is this what he mean when he say you have to be reborn again? You have to become as little children because everything you've been taught is wrong. Here you can walk on water too. Here you can heal people too. That's all he was doing in there, trying to show them you can do all these things too and more. I'm liking this. I'm liking this. I'm liking this video and everything. It looked pretty good, huh? It looks real good. I'm sitting there tripping on how good it looks. Man, I can't wait to put some good lighting behind it. And yeah, I'm gonna do some things with this right here. Anyway, how did y'all like? Y'all like this today? This discussion? How'd y'all like this discussion? Give me some feedback in the chat. Give me some feedback in the chat. Sent gold coin for 10 jewels. What was that? Where is this? Let me put it. They have this thing. Okay, there it is. I said enough about Napoleon Hill. I said not enough about Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill, he 16 Laws of Success is a nice book, man. That's a very nice book. I'm gonna tell you, it's probably the only book I would put on par with Kevin Trudeau's book, Your Wish is Your Command. But because Kevin Trudeau's book is nice too. It's real nice. It's a modern day nice. I would definitely recommend that book, Kevin Trudeau's book, Your Wish is Your Command. Definitely is a very good book. If you want to look in there and you want to see these principles that I'm talking about and how he's explaining them in a way that it would be very insightful, I think, for individuals, to actually read that book and, and get some insight into how these principles are actually put into operation. And like they talk about the levels of mastery, the unconscious incompetence, and then unconscious, what is it, conscious incompetence, and then conscious competence, and then unconscious uh, unconscious competence, which is when you really, those are describing the different layers of impressing the subconscious mind, making something into a habit. And that's what it like when you play a piano, you get to the level you can play it, and you can have a coda conversation, and you play it because the subconscious mind has taken over. And that's what you have to, that's the level of mastery. And that's why repetition is the key. And that's why it gets into prayer and all these different things that we're talking about, because these are just rituals to get you to and get involved in some sort of repetition, doing something the same way on a daily basis to get the results you're looking for. and also understanding the need to be positive and the need to be present. And how you stay present is with gratitude, and that's why you always give thanks. Expressing gratitude keeps you in the present. Gratitude keeps you present. Because you don't want to have your mind drifting into yesterday and having it drifting into tomorrow. You want to keep it in the eternal now, power of now, right now, the great I am. And that requires gratitude. Gratitude is very important. Be thankful for what you have if you want more. He says, I'm literally in the process of remodeling my office and really love your bookshelf. Tell me, please, where I can pick one up. Man, I found this bookshelf at it was at an office liquidation warehouse in Atlanta. Man, I've had this bookshelf for a long time, and a lot of people do like it. It's nice, but I got it a long time. I've been having that bookshelf probably about 10 years now. 10 years. But I remember when I got it, I used to go when I shop for furniture. I go all different places, all kind of places. I'm looking at different things. I've come to the knowledge that just because you got Haverty's or some, they put nice stuff, but you can find nice stuff anywhere. Same thing with jewelry. I don't. You can find some nice jewelry in some of the most off the path places. Gold is gold. Quality is, if you understand quality, you can find the quality anywhere. So same thing with furniture, it's like you can find good quality furniture in a lot of different places. I really love how we decorated uh this podcast studio. It is very beautiful. It is beautiful. Very beautiful. It's nice. Anyway, I can't stand people with victim mentality. It says, I am is modern. Who is that? Game of Life, Florence, Little Red Book, Richest Man in Babylon started it for me. Richest Man in Babylon is a very good book. It teaches you the principles of saving and, acquiring, how you spend your money, disciplining yourself. Definitely, definitely a good book too. Richest Man in Babylon. Um, I'll tell you a real good book on giving. It's The Law of Tenfold Return. I think that's one of the a very good book. It's called Seed Money, The Law of Tenfold Return. The necessity of giving. Like I keep cash in my wallet just solely for giving homeless people. I always I hate to pass a homeless person and not have don't have anything to give them because I've been given so much. And you want to be a source of happiness for people. Because God bless people through people. So if you want God to use you as a blessing, you have to be a blessing to people. If you want him to bless you so you can be a blessing to other people, you have to start being blessings to other people. Give. You have to be that what you wish to become. You have to be that what you wish to become. I can see many use of in the future. The internet is going to be a non-belligerent, non-combatant, La Forma's playland and going to be disseminated to all corners. Okay. I like that. I like that. I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I'm stuck. I don't have the motivation to go anywhere anymore. And I'm just afraid of people and being myself. I don't know how to not care what people think. Man, that's a very good comment. Let me think about that for a second. Um, I don't know how to not care about what people think. You're overly concerned about what people think. When you are let me say this first. When you care about what people think, you make them your God. You make them your God first and foremost. Um, I'm not saying that you shouldn't necessarily be concerned with first impressions and things like that because they can open up doors for you. I think that when you know what you want, then the facts don't matter. Okay. I think when you understand how the law operates, in other words, it doesn't matter what your present situation is. If you see where you want to be and you are implementing all the things that I'm saying, it doesn't matter what other people think. Just the knowledge of how everything operates will just naturally, just dispel what other people think, because it doesn't matter what they think, because the universe is bringing me to my destination. You can't stop what's meant for a man. That's like when people try to get in your way and try to sabotage what you're trying to do. It's impossible, because you can't sabotage what I'm trying to do, because you can't stop what's meant for me. What's meant for me is meant for me, and what's meant for you is meant for you. That's how the laws operate. That's how the laws work. So you're wasting your time trying to sabotage someone, and you're wasting your time trying to be jealous. Being jealous is just an acknowledgement that you haven't identified the power that is in you yet. It's just crazy. You're jealous of someone and you got the same capability to do what they can do. Why would you be jealous? Why waste your time with that? You got the same power that they got and you're jealous. It just means that you're in a state of ignorance, that you're ignoring. You're in a state of ignoring. It's crazy. But it's an acknowledgement of the laws, how the laws work. When you take the time to study the laws, and I just think it's just by a process of operation of law that you just naturally stop caring what people think, because you know where you're going, you know the laws, you know how they operate, you know what it is that you want, and you know that it's coming to you. So why would it matter what other people think? Because you've designed your life in your mind's eye, and you're constructing it. You're busy constructing it, and you're constructing it the way that you want to construct it. And you know that the operation of law acts precisely the same way, and it's acted precisely the same way since the beginning of time. So you can have faith in its operation. So why would you? This is how you develop faith, by knowing the laws. It's not just like getting in your car, cranking it up. Okay, you know it's going to crank up because you put gas in it, every day or whatever. So you know it's going to crank up. You have faith it's going to crank up. Now you may not know that there is something wrong with the car and it might not crank, but you got a lot of faith in it because you know it's always cranked. You put gas in it. You know how cars work. Well, that's the same way with how natural laws work. You get to a point, this is how they work. And everybody who's successful utilizes them without exception. It's like the practice of law is to perfect it. So even if the speaker is wrong, the fact that we're making it part of our regular conversation is going to help tremendously. Well, I'm not wrong, first and foremost. And I don't think the practice of law is to perfect it. Well, maybe it is. Maybe the practice of law is to perfect it. Maybe it is. I can get with that. I get it. You don't care because you know the universal law. If you know the laws, if you just know the laws, it's a byproduct of knowing the laws. You're naturally not going to care because why would you care when you know you can get whatever you want? If you don't look the way you want, you get the body that you want. If you don't have enough money, you don't get the money that you want. Anything that you want, you can have. That's why it says, ask and it shall be given. So if anything you want, you can have. Why would you care about what other people think? Because the way that they think has no bearing on the life that what you're going to get, or the life that you want, or you having the life that you want. No bearing on it whatsoever. Laws are not changing. See, that's, I don't know why you would say laws are. Well, luckily you wrote law with a lowercase l. You didn't write it with a capital L. You didn't write the definitive or the definite article law, which are talking about natural laws, because natural laws aren't changing. Because I'm about to start calling you one of the Marxists. Because that's what Marxists think. They think they don't believe in natural laws. They don't believe in nothing. They just, things just is. You can do whatever you want, be whatever you want. Ain't no structure to any of their thinking process whatsoever. No structure. The laws never change. They're immutable and eternal. The UCC code is not changing. That's why they have stare decisis, to stand by things decided, or they call it common law. It's not changing. There's nothing. Y'all just say that stuff. You don't have any evidence of it. That's just you victim blaming again. It's not always changing. It's just you just want to hear yourself to talk negatively about something without being able to really substantiate it. Because if I asked you to give me examples of what you're talking about, you would maybe a lot of examples of it always changing. Because you said it always changes. So show me an example of the UCC always changing. You can't do it. You just made that statement. Facts, facts, or to be highly everything happened good and bad, mostly good. I just naturally forced myself to be antisocial over the years of isolation. Well, that's what you want. You want to be antisocial, so you're getting exactly what you want. What you crying about? That's what you want. Weed laws ain't constantly changing. What you mean they constantly changing? Constantly changing. They've been illegal. The feds ain't legalized them still. They still illegal on the federal level. What y'all talking about? They're only different because you got different states. When they change on the state level. The law of thermodynamics, stick your hand in the fire, you will get burned. Yeah. Okay, I got to go. All right, y'all. Look, I don't know why people in the chat, why do y'all let people in the chat with such negative dispositions take over? It's like when you look in the chat, you see it just victimization and weakness and things like that. And it's like, nah, I'm all for strength. I'm all for masculinity. I'm not for weakness. I don't ever sanction weakness. You know, really, my grandmother, man, she said something. It seemed real cruel at one time. She said that the reason that there's so many weak people in the world is because of the advances they made in medicine. She said because under nature, weak people or weak children would be died at birth or whatever, but they found ways to save them and let them live in the world. And thought it was kind of mean, but I understood her point of what she was saying, that you do have some weak people in the world, but it seems kind of mean to say that they shouldn't have the right to exist. But no, it's not saying they don't have the right to exist, but it could explain why they demonstrate such a weak constitution. Is the point I'm trying to make, not whether they have a right to exist or not. But you know what I'm saying? Because if nature was left to their devices, how many weak people would really be alive in the world today? Had to think like that. The magnet concept regarding that's a fact. Yeah, there's no such thing as courtroom immunity. What are you talking about? No, you're going to be accountable for the actions that you take. And that's why we're talking about this right now. I'm talking right now about a subject to prevent you from going into the court because one of the four rules is do not participate in public controversy, which means you shouldn't even be doing anything that would subject you to having to go to court in the first place. And you will do that when you start adjusting your conduct. A lot of you like to talk about equity. Equitable principles regulate conduct. Is what they do. It's fairness, impartiality, and even-handed dealing. If you truly understood equity, you would understand how to conduct yourself in society, and you would never do anything that would cause you have to go to court in the first place. You conduct your affairs correctly with your fellow man in contract situations and business situations. You would correct yourself correctly in your relationship with your mate. You would start doing things the correct way. But the reason you're having problems is because you don't do things the correct way. And you want to blame somebody else. I appreciate the 10 bones. What should I do if they do not accept my presentment for set off? I'm not talking about that today, but I appreciate the $10. I appreciate it. I don't know. I don't know. I appreciate the donation though. I'm sorry, everyone that's responded to my comments. Thank you all. You guys are right. I'm just overthinking. So my birth certificate, they don't hold me to anything. The court, like, I don't know. 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 I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. No, I don't say God only makes strong people. I mean, I would say God has made it where the strong dominate the weak because I see it everywhere in nature. If you're looking out in nature, the stronger animals eat the weaker animals. They're predator and prey. Everything. What are you talking about? Weakness in nature, weakness is punished on all levels, even down to the microscopic world. So yeah, I'm saying I'm not saying Yeah, that's how it was made. When you look at nature, I'm not talking about you in these safe environments that man has constructed to you. I'm talking about when in raw nature. When you're in raw nature, yeah, how God designed things originally without us putting out, without us intervening and changing some things. Yeah, the strong dominate the weak. Strength is what rules. Anyway, I am very very happy. I like this. I like this camera. I like the video. I like the quality of this camera. It's nice. It's real nice. God made it so that the strongest, the smartest, the fastest, the best is anything is what stays alive. Well, people like, even you have to work out, like muscle is going to dictate how you age, how much muscle you have on your body. Just think that, like, if you're not using it, it starts deteriorating, you know? So I'm just saying, it's just observation. Where everywhere I look, even in the ocean, you got predators and prey, down to, all kind of stuff eating it's in the ocean, everything is eating everything else. Everything is eating everything else in the ocean. Why would God make the world and the universe like that, where everything is eating everything else? What kind of God would create that? What was he thinking about? It's like, why would God make that, where he make creatures, he give us life and then make another creature that's trying to take it away? Kind of wonder about that. Okay, I'm going to go out. But is it okay to punish the weak? I think the weak punish themselves because they got weak mentalities. When I say weak, I'm talking about a weak mindset. If you have a weak mindset, then yeah, you're going to suffer because you don't have a strong mind. You don't have a strong will. You are the cause of it. It's really you causing it. God made the laws to give you whatever you want. You get whatever you want by what you think about all the time. If you are in a constant state of mental weakness constantly, then what do you think your life is going to be about? It's going to be incidences that are constantly going to be brought to you that's going to be to exploit the weakness that you keep attracting to yourself. Everything begins with the mind. That's what it was, the first principle, mentalism. You cannot get outside of, see, you're trying to lay blame somewhere else and then you're trying to remove it from with you. That's why I said until you take the accountability for who you are, nothing's going to change in your life. You're going to keep experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing. You got to take full accountability and understand that you are the source of everything that's happening in your life. And until you accept that 100%, nothing's going to change. You're going to be in a constant state of victimhood. You're never going to have power. How are you going to have power when you won't take up the mantle of power? The mantle of power is accepting who you are. So yeah, you're going to continually being weak, and yes, the strong dominate the weak. Yes, strong dominates the weak. You're going to keep getting dominated. Yes, at my weakest points, I was actually at my strongest. All right, I don't know about that. Weakness and strength is sometimes based on the values. Like, I'm gonna get off, man. We done descended into something else. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Hopefully, you could garner some nuggets of wisdom from today's broadcast, and hopefully, I made some impression on some people. And like I said, these are principles. They exist in everything in creation. And that's what you should start doing. You should start practicing identifying the operation of certain principles in different situations and circumstances, and even in your relationships and things like that. Those principles are always in operation. So when you learn them and you're able to identify them, then you can be able to use them to your benefit. All right. Once you master them, you can use them to your benefit. All right. Anyway, peace to everyone. I appreciate you. I'll catch you on the next live. Damn, I was on a long time today. Peace, everyone.